All right, let's just dive right into this explainer. Today, we're tackling something I bet almost every single one of us is going to face at some point, and that's how to actually help an anxious friend without accidentally making things worse. It's one of those things that looks incredibly simple from the outside, but it is actually so easy to get wrong.
Picture this. It's, say, 11 o'clock at night. You're winding down, and bam, you get this exact text from a friend who's totally spiraling. You've probably been in this exact position before, right? Your immediate, deeply human instinct is to just make their fear disappear. You want to text back something like, "Hey, it's going to be fine," or "Just don't think about it." But researchers have found that somewhere between those totally well-meaning phrases, you might actually be watching their anxiety get worse. Those very instincts that feel the absolutely most caring in the moment, they might actually be backfiring on you.
And this matters deeply, because this isn't some rare occurrence. The National Institute of Mental Health estimates that a whopping 1 in 3 adults will experience an anxiety disorder at some point in their lives. Just think about that number for a second. That means someone in your world right now, a friend, a partner, a coworker, is probably struggling. How we respond to them genuinely shapes their reality. The good news is, you absolutely do not need a psychology degree to be a rock-solid support system. You just need to know which of your instincts to trust and, well, which ones you need to completely rethink.
So leaning on guidance from major mental health organizations, we're going to break this explainer down into 5 key areas: the anxiety support trap, how to listen, validate, and ask, breaking the reassurance loop, navigating triggers and panic, and finally, professional help and boundaries.
Starting us off with Section 1, the anxiety support trap, and specifically, what happens when our help actually backfires.
There's this fascinating, kind of counterintuitive concept, heavily researched by the Yale School of Public Health, called family accommodation. It basically describes all the tiny, seemingly helpful ways we adjust our own behavior to shield an anxious person from feeling distressed. I mean, it feels super protective, right? But the research shows that over-accommodating quietly reinforces the exact fear we're trying to relieve. By removing every single obstacle for them, we're accidentally teaching them that the world is just too dangerous for them to handle on their own. Moving right along to Section 2, listen and validate, or basically, what you should actually be saying first. Okay, so when someone you care about is spiraling, your brain literally screams at you to just fix it. You want to say things like, "Just relax, it's no big deal," or "Hey, everyone gets nervous." Actually, scratch that. Those phrases usually land terribly. To someone in the middle of a massive anxiety spiral, it just sounds like you're telling them they're overreacting. Instead, you need to validate them. Saying something like, "Wow, that sounds really hard," doesn't mean you're agreeing their absolute worst-case scenario is going to come true. It just simply acknowledges that their emotional pain is 100% real and makes sense to them in that moment.
Which brings us to a totally game-changing tool: asking a concrete multiple-choice question. See, when someone is overwhelmed, an open-ended "what do you need" can be completely paralyzing. But asking, "Hey, do you want to talk, do you want some space, or do you want a distraction?" hands the control right back over to the person who actually knows their own experience best. It's a super simple shift, but man, it is incredibly empowering for them.
All right, Section 3, the reassurance loop and how we accidentally feed it.
Anxiety is basically this desperate, endless search for certainty. Are you absolutely sure you're not mad at me? Can you promise me it'll be okay? Now, answering that once, totally kind, totally normal. But if you answer that exact same nervous question for the 5th or, the 10th time in a row, you're actually feeding the reassurance loop. Doing this teaches their brain that you are its only source of calm. You're inadvertently preventing their brain from learning that, hey, sitting with a little uncertainty is actually completely survivable. So instead of repeating yourself on an endless loop, gently let them know you're there for them, but you just aren't going to keep feeding the anxiety. We also really have to watch out for 2 massive extremes that come from a place of good intentions: pushing and rescuing. Pushing them way too hard into a triggering situation, thinking they just need to, get it over with, usually just heightens their distress and damages the trust they have in you. On the flip side, rescuing them, like making every single phone call for them or constantly canceling their plans so they don't have to face people, is just another form of that accommodation trap we talked about earlier. It quietly shrinks their world until their comfort zone is incredibly tiny. The real sweet spot here is the middle path. You want to support small, highly manageable steps right at their pace. If they're terrified of making a really important phone call, don't make it for them for sure, but also don't force them to just do it completely alone. Sit right beside them while they make it. Maybe help them write down a few bullet points of what they want to say beforehand. The key is you're present for the step, but you're empowering them to actually take it themselves.
Which brings us to Section 4, navigating triggers and panic, and using physical grounding tools.
Because look, when someone's nervous system goes into absolute overdrive and turns into a full panic response, logic completely flies out the window. Reasoning with them is literally like speaking a foreign language. They need physical grounding. The 5-4-3-2-1 technique is this fantastic, widely used tool to pull them right back into the present moment. You just gently guide them to name 5 things they can visually see, 4 things they can physically touch, 3 things they hear, 2 they smell, and 1 thing they taste. This process physically interrupts that terrifying spiral of racing thoughts and firmly pulls their attention back into the safe, physical present.
You can also use box breathing. It's a super simple rhythm. You inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and hold for 4. But here's the real pro tip for being a supportive friend. Do it right alongside them. Don't just stand over them barking instructions to breathe. Use a calm, steady voice and breathe with them. It makes the whole exercise feel infinitely less isolating and actually helps regulate their nervous system through your own calm presence.
Finally, let's wrap up with Section 5, Professional Help and Boundaries, focusing on long-term support.
At the end of the day, you're their friend, right? You're not their therapist. Anxiety disorders are super treatable, especially with methods like cognitive behavioral therapy, but how you suggest that help really matters. You definitely want to avoid ultimatums like, "You really need therapy," which will almost always make them super defensive. Instead, plant the idea gently. Try saying, "Hey, have you ever thought about talking to someone about this?" Leave the power in their hands. You can offer practical help, like helping them research providers, and if they say no, just keep the door open. You can't force someone into treatment, but you can be a totally safe bridge to it when they're finally ready.
And here is a part that people almost always ignore: your own well-being. The Anxiety and Depression Association of America points out that supporting someone with anxiety takes a massive, very real toll on you too. You simply cannot be their only source of calm indefinitely. Setting boundaries, like refusing to engage in those endless reassurance loops late at night, is not unkind. In fact, it's an absolute necessity. You have to set limits so that you can keep showing up consistently rather than totally burning out and disappearing right when they need you the most. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to really think about the tools we've covered today, from avoiding that family accommodation trap to validating their feelings, grounding them in the present, and setting healthy boundaries. The next time you get that late-night panic text, ask yourself this absolutely crucial question. Are your actions genuinely helping your friend build resilience, or are you just comfortably feeding their anxiety? The difference between those two things might just change their entire life.